So, if you run tabletop role-playing games, you've probably drawn your fair share of dungeon maps, right? But let's be honest, what's the difference between a few rooms strung together and a legendary, unforgettable experience? Well, today, we're going to go way beyond just drawn lines on a grid. We're going to explore how to design dungeons that tell a story, that really challenge your players, and become the highlight of your entire campaign.
So let's kick things off with a big idea. What if a map could be more than just a stage for monster fights? What if the hallways, the rooms, the very architecture didn't just connect encounters, but actually shaped the entire adventure? That's the core concept we're diving into.
I love this quote from researcher Tom Kemp. He calls the dungeon a labyrinthine ambassador for the eerie. What a great way to put it. It's not just a place you see, it's a concept. It's where the architecture itself tells the story of the fantasy world. But to figure out how to build one of these amazing spaces, we first need to know where they even came from. All right, so to design the dungeons of the future, we have to dig into their past. And it's a weirder history than you might think. The whole idea didn't just pop into existence. It evolved from something completely different, and that origin story, it holds all the secrets to making our own designs so much better. It all starts, believe it or not, with actual war. Back in 1812, you have the Prussian Kriegspiel, a super serious tool for training military officers. Flash forward 100 years, and H.G. Wells makes a version for regular folks, hoping it would be a substitute for real fighting. But the real magic, the big leap, happens in the 70s. That's when pioneers like Dave Arneson took these games about huge armies and zoomed the camera way in, focusing on the personal stories of individual characters. And this, right here, this is where it all changes. Early wargamers used these hollow plastic castles as, just set dressing. But in his famous Blackmore campaign, Dave Arneson's players actually conquered the castle on the board. He needed something new for them to do, a new challenge. So in this amazing moment of pure creativity, he just made something up. He invented a labyrinth underneath the castle, filling that literally empty space with adventure. So think about that. The very first dungeon wasn't some grand, pre-planned masterpiece. It was an improvisation, a clever fix to keep the game fun and moving forward. But that one single idea completely changed everything. It shifted the whole focus of the game from commanding big armies on a battlefield to guiding a small band of heroes through a mysterious, unknown space. Okay, so that's the history lesson. Cool, right? But how do we actually use these ideas at our own table? Let's get practical. We're going to break it all down into 3 core principles for designing a dungeon that feels alive. Principle number 1, and this is a big one, empower your players. A great dungeon is all about giving them real, meaningful choices. You're not pulling them along on a string. You want them to feel like actual, clever explorers who are making their own way through your world. And here are the nuts and bolts of how you do that. First, give them more than one way in. Is it the main gate or the secret tunnel through the sewers? Then design layouts that aren't just a straight line. Have paths branch out, have corridors that loop back on themselves. And of course the classic, reward the players who are paying attention with secret doors and hidden passages. This slide really breaks it down. A linear dungeon, it's basically an amusement park ride. You get in the cart, you see the sights, you get out at the end, it's predictable. But a non-linear dungeon, now that is a real adventure. It's a place where players can get lost, make strategic choices about where to go next, and feel that genuine thrill of discovery. Yeah, it's a bit more work for the designer, but trust me, it's way more rewarding for your players. This whole design philosophy is so important, it actually has a name. Jaquaying the Dungeon. It's named for the absolute legend, designer Janelle Jacques. She completely revolutionized mapmaking by championing these kinds of complex, interconnected layouts that give players the ultimate freedom to explore. And this map right here is a masterclass in Jaquaying. This is from the Caverns of Thracia. Just look at this thing. It's a beautiful mess, right? You see how paths cross over, they loop back, there are connections between different levels. As a player looking at this, you don't see a single path. You see a whole world of possibilities. Okay, so giving players choices is huge, but those choices have to happen in a world that feels real. That brings us to our second principle, build a believable world. A good dungeon shouldn't feel like a random collection of rooms. It needs to feel like a real place, with a real history. That's what pulls your players in. So how do we cook up that feeling of a real place? Well, first off, variety's key. Mix in rooms that had a purpose. An old kitchen, a barracks, a forgotten library, and don't make every room a square. Second, think vertically. Add stairs, balconies, deep pits. And finally, let the natural world creep in. An underground river carving through a section or massive tree roots breaking through the walls. That stuff makes a place feel ancient and real.
And designer Luke Hart absolutely nails it here. Sameness is the enemy of engagement. If every single room is a 20 by 20 foot box with a monster in it, your players are going to check out. But if they go from a grand throne room to a natural cavern dripping with stalactites to a cramped, dusty workshop, they stay hooked. They stay curious.
All right, our final principle gets right to the heart of the action. Let's face it, a lot of these games involve some tactical combat, right? So your map shouldn't just be a static background. It should be an active part of the fight. The terrain itself needs to tell a story. And you can do this with 3 really simple steps. 1. Design interesting terrain. Think narrow bridges over a chasm, balconies for archers, stuff like that. 2. Create choke points and cover. Give both your players and your monsters places to hide and ways to control the battlefield. And 3. Never, ever underestimate the power of a simple door. A door controls what people can see, it builds tension, and it can be a whole encounter in itself if it's barred or trapped. Okay, so let's bring this all home. We've gone from the accidental birth of the dungeon all the way to some really practical design tips. So what's the big picture here? What's the goal? It's all about getting back to that powerful first idea of the dungeon as a story. Because if there's one thing you take away from this, it should be this. A great map is not just a place for the adventure to happen. A great map is the adventure. Its layout, its weird features, its hidden secrets, all of it comes together to tell a story that your players get to discover for themselves. This really is the perfect summary. A dungeon is a system of interconnected parts. It's a story with a past and a present. It's a physical space to explore. And when you do it right, it feels like a living, breathing organism that reacts and changes as the players move through it. So, next time you sit down with that piece of graph paper or you open up your map-making software, don't just ask yourself, okay, where do the monsters go? Ask yourself this instead. What story will your next map tell?